Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second social media session of this morning. And I'm Chen Haodan. I will chair this session of 6 interesting short talks. And each of the talk will be about 12 minutes, and then we have 3 minutes for questions. And the first talk will be from Marco and on short-term meaning shift. Actually, doesn't mic work? It sounds weird to me. It works. It echoes, right? Yeah. I'll put it back there for questions, and then hopefully the echo will go away, and I will try to walk with it back. And the first talk is on short-term meaning shift, a distributional exploration.
I'm waiting for them. Okay. Okay. So hi everyone. I'm Marco del Tredici, and I'm going to present this work that I did together with my supervisor Raquel Fernandez and Gemma Boleda. That is about short-term meaning shift. So, what is meaning shift? Well, basically, is the idea that some words change meaning in time. And this is a phenomenon that has attracted a lot of attention in NLP recently. So here I mentioned a few works like the one from Kulkarni et al. In 2015, Hamilton et al. In 2016, and Freeman and Lapata again in 2016. All this work focused on meaning shift, and these are typical examples like the word virus that at the beginning of last century was used was in the semantic area of germ, disease, and so on. And the end of the century, it also had an additional meaning in the semantic area of software, bug, programming, and so on. Or another typical example is the word gay, that at the beginning of the 20th century was a synonym or cheerful, while at the end of the century it was closed in the semantic area of homosexual, bisexual, and so on. So what all this work have in common is that they focus on long periods of time. So that's why we call them long-term meaning shift. So basically, usually they are decades or centuries, right? And this is, of course, interesting, but I would like to show you some other examples. So the examples that I'm going to show you are from an online community of football fans, and they come from our dataset. I will give you some more details later on. So consider this first sentence, then, after losing the F5 key on my keyboard, and so on. So F5 here, in bold, it's clear what it's referring to. It's actually the key on the keyboard. Then is so close, F5 tapping is so intense now. Okay, still F5 is clear because the tapping of the key is clear. Why someone is close is not super clear, but okay. And then don't think about too much don't think about it too much, man. Just F5. Things become a bit more obscure. So what does F5 means here? Is it maybe a verb or what? And I slept and just woke up and thought it was F5 time. Okay, very obscure. And finally, this was a happy F5. So how can F5 be happy? So the meaning of F5 in this sentence is interesting because it's the members of this community used F5 to indicate the act of refreshing the pages in order to get information about a possible transfer to the team. So they were so excited, and they developed this specific meaning of F5. That's why he is so close, is the player that is about to join the team. And finally, it was a happy F5 because this player finally signed for them. And what is also very interesting is that all this stuff happened in a very short period of time. That is, the first example is from 16th of June, 2017, and the last one is the 3rd of July of the same year, of course. And so this was very quick as a change, and the interesting thing is that it was so quick that there was someone in the community saying, hey, what is an F5? Because it was not even clear to people within the same community. So this is the kind of phenomenon that we worked on, that we call short-term meaning shift. Of course, short-term because as you saw, it's on a very short period of time. And that broadly, we define as a rapid change in the ontological type that a word denotes. So basically, a word that was used to denote something is now used to denote something else. And a key aspect is that we investigate this phenomenon in online communities. So why community? Because basically a community is where the genesis and spread of new meanings basically takes place, before these new meanings then go beyond and maybe to the general language, like the examples that we saw at the beginning. So we make two contributions. The first one is that we create a data set that is annotated for this short-term meaning shift, and then we assess the performance as a standard model on this kind of shift. As for the data set, as I was mentioning before, we collect user-generated content from Reddit, and more specifically for our football fans community, that is the one of Liverpool FC. We use two time beans, 2013 and 2017, and basically what we did, it was to have 100 words annotated by the members of the community. And based on this annotation, we create for each word a semantic shift index in the range between 0 and 1, where 0, of course, is no shift, and 1 is the maximum. It's interesting to look at the kind of shift that after the annotation of the members of the community, we had a bit of analysis of what came out, and you can find more details in the paper, but there are some interesting linguistic phenomena like metonymy. So we are playing with the highlighter today. That doesn't mean that they are physically playing with the highlighter, but highlighter is the word that they use to identify, to denote a specific kit for playing that has a yellow brilliant color, so they call it the highlighter. Then there are a lot of metaphors, of course, like this one. You boys know how to shovel coal. That basically this is an extended metaphor. That means that they explicitly say and see the team as a train that is running through the season, and everyone is asked to support the team by showing coal into the boiler of the train, so to make it go faster. And a lot of memes, like when a player called Van Dijk joined the team, they started playing jokes with it, like Van Dijk was wearing these Vans in the van, and a lot of this stuff. Okay, given the data that we collected, as I told you, we took a model for semantic shift and tested it on the data. The basic idea for all the models of semantic shift is that basically you have a representation for a vocabulary, you have a representation at different time beans, and you want to look if a representation has shift in time. So for example, here at time 1, there is 1 point that moved in the space, and so it means that you have a shift of meaning that is due to the fact that the word was used in a different context. More specifically, we use the model by Kim et al. In 2014 that is based on word2vec. So you just create word representation with word2vec at time 1, and you use them to initialize those as time at time 2, for example. So what about the results? Well, in general, there is a positive correlation between cosine distance and shift index, which means that overall, the model is able to capture short-term meaning shift. However, there are some systematic deviations, like false negatives, that are words that are marked as having a high shift index by humans, but not by the model. And here is an example of shovel that we saw before. If you think about it, this is because the context in this extended metaphor doesn't change. Therefore, the model that is looking at the very small context around the word is not able to spot this change. And this is the reason why the cosine distance is small. Then there are false positives that are a bigger group, that are basically words with 0 shift index, but the model sees some change. And why? Well, basically because of a referential effect. These are words that in 2017 are used almost exclusively to talk about a specific entity, which was not there in 2013. And so, a couple of examples. Stubborn is always used to refer to a coach that joined Liverpool in 2015, and it was not there before. Or independence to talk about the political facts in Catalonia that took place in 2017, because like in the community, they talk also about extra stuff, not only about football. So the interesting fact here is that the model is spotting a change that indeed took place, because there is a change in the context of use, but it's not sensitive to the fact that this is not a meaning change, but it's just a referential one. So Since, as we said, the referential cases always are related to a specific entity, we thought that in these cases, the context of use would be narrower compared to real meaning shift. And so we came up with a very simple measure of contextual variability that basically looks at how many words are the target word co-occurring with. And we found that this measure indeed is correlated with semantic shift, as we see here. So basically, when there is a semantic shift, the contextual variability goes up, while in the referential cases is low. And the words that you see here in the red ellipses are those that before were spread on the x-axis with the cosine distance. So probably contextual variability can be also used in order to inform the model about this phenomenon of referential effect. Okay, so to sum up, we have this exploratory investigation of short-term meaning shift. That is the first one that was presented. We annotated and make available a dataset that you can find at this link. And we made some linguistic analysis of the phenomena, some analysis of the linguistic phenomena that are involved, like the ones that we saw before. And most importantly, we took a standard model for meaning detection, and we assess its performance on this specific kind of shift. Thanks a lot.
We have some time for questions, and the question mark is in the middle of the room.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Fernandez from IBM. So how did the distribution of the data affect this? So you said in 2013 and 2017, does the distribution of a particular word which you're trying to find the shift in meaning, how was the distribution playing into role? How many examples were present in 2013 versus 2017? What's the problem?
Now this is super interesting. So we try to we control for the absolute frequency. So if you by distribution you mean this the occurrences of the target words, we control for it, and we only selected words that overall were within a specific range of occurrences. So the words that have been annotated by the users, and so in general we have this we control with this aspect. However, it's true, and this is something that we noticed, that especially in some cases, when you observe a meaning shift like the one of F5, you also really see a bump in plain number of occurrences. So let's say that there are no figures in the paper about this, but what we observed, and that is something that we also want to look at more deeply, is that when you have changes in long-term shift, you have some increase maybe in distribution that then is stable, reaches a plateau, while in our case the trend is different. You usually have a bump and then it goes down again. So really time specific. So yeah, I hope I replied to your question.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Very nice examples though. I had a question, when you were trying to do, did you try 0 to t and t to t plus 1 when you were distributing the data, or you did 0 to t and 0 to t plus 1 when you were trying to find the correlation differences? You said you had two word-to-vec model, right?
Okay, yes.
T and t plus 1. So
Yes, t, yes, okay.
So what's the difference between t and t plus 1, or were you doing 0 to t and 0 to t plus 1?
Okay, so this is this is a very important point. That so what we did is, since the dataset was rather small, what we did was at the beginning we initialized the vectors on a very big sample of language from Reddit. Okay, so a very big one. Then, as a first step, we adapted these vectors to Liverpool 13, therefore that is like T0. And then we used those to initialize those in Liverpool 2017, and this is where we look at the shift. So it was kind of sequential procedure. So yeah, this is important, an important methodological aspect. You're welcome.
Let's thank the first speaker again. second speaker is